Cat arrived at the old cabin just after dusk, Paws silent on the rotting boards of the porch. The structure had always been fragile. She'd watched it age year after year, but tonight it felt different. The wood didn't creak beneath her weight. It didn't shift. It didn't answer her presence the way old things usually did. It only waited. Cat sat near the splintered edge of the porch, tail curled neatly around her paws. The sky above her deepened into a muted blue, and the first stars blinked through the haze. The cabin windows, dusty and fractured, remained black. They should have glowed by now. The humans who lived here always lit lamps early, long before true night fell. Cat had grown used to the soft yellow glow spilling from behind those panes. But tonight, the windows were as dark as the lake beyond the tree line. Empty, unwoken. Cat blinked slowly, pupils widening as she peered inside. No movement, no candle flicker, no lamplight. Just the faint outlines of furniture, swallowed by shadow. She lifted her chin and meowed, once, clear and expectant. The sound drifted toward the cabin and disappeared. Not faded, not muffled. Disappeared. Cat's whiskers twitched. She stood and padded to the door, brushing her flank against it the way she always did when asking to be let inside. Usually, the door responded with a gentle rattle. The house breathed with its humans. Tonight, the door was cold. Still, as if no one had touched it in years. Cat sat again, confused. The porch around her held a tight, stale quiet. Not the warm silence of a familiar home. This was a hollow stillness, as though the world were holding its breath a moment too long. She turned her gaze toward the nearest lamp beside the door, its glass fogged with dust. She remembered the sound it made when lit, an electric hum that buzzed just enough to annoy her, but reassure her all the same. She meowed again, softer. The lamp didn't blink, didn't twitch, didn't hum. Cat stood and pressed her forehead gently against the wood of the door. It didn't warm under her touch. She pawed at it, a small scrape that should have echoed inside the empty cabin, but the sound was swallowed instantly, eaten by the thick dead air. Another lamp on the far side of the porch should have flickered with motion. Cat had watched moths dance around it every night of her life, scattering light in tiny, joyful bursts. Tonight, not even insects dared approach. The lamp remained perfectly dark. A faint breeze rustled the trees behind the cabin. But the lamps didn't swing, their wires didn't sway. Not a single speck of dust drifted from their edges, as if the lights weren't just off, as if they had never been on at all. Cat moved toward the left window, the one with the crack shaped like a crescent moon. She rose onto her hind legs and placed her paws against the pane. The glass was colder than the air around it. Inside, nothing. Then she noticed something new. Her reflection in the glass didn't move with her. Her head tilted left. The reflection remained still. Her ear twitched. The reflection stayed frozen. Cat lowered herself to all fours quickly, heart thumping. The reflection delayed. Only after a heartbeat did it follow, jerky, abrupt, catching up to the pose she no longer held. Its tail, flicked after hers, had already gone still. Cat hissed quietly. The reflection's mouth opened, but no sound came. The glass didn't vibrate. The porch didn't echo. Cat backed away, fur lifting along her spine. Behind her, for the first time that night, something inside the cabin shifted. Not light, not movement. Just the faintest impression of weight settling. As though the house had realized she was there and decided to wake without lights. The shift inside the cabin was so faint Cat might have imagined it, but her body reacted before her mind did. Her tail puffed slightly, legs tensing, ears rotating toward the sound, or toward the space where sound should have been, because whatever had moved inside hadn't made a real noise. It was the idea of movement, pressure, weight. A whisper of displacement without vibration. Cat crept toward the door again. The air around it felt thicker now, not warmer, not colder, simply denser, as if the house exhaled a long breath it had held for years. The porch boards beneath her paws still refused to creak. The silence was so complete she could hear her own heartbeat cycling in her ears. She touched her nose to the door. A tremor passed through it. Not enough to count as motion, enough to feel like acknowledgement. Cat backed away one step. The door didn't move, but its surface seemed more aware. She trotted toward the left window again, whiskers forward, cautious. Her reflection in the glass lagged once more, as if waking from sleep. This time, when she raised a paw to the pane, the reflection did not mirror her exactly. Her paw pressed to the glass. The reflection's paw pressed too, but at a slightly different angle, as though deciding for itself where the paw should be. Cat lowered her foot abruptly. The reflection lowered its only after a delay, stiffly, reluctantly. Cat hissed. Her reflection's mouth opened too, but delayed, too wide, too toothy for a feline shape. The pane did not fog with breath. The air between her and the glass felt drained of even the smallest movement. Then, inside the cabin, the pressure shifted again. This time the boards inside flexed faintly, not with a sound, but with a sensation, like distant weight passing over them. Cat could feel it through the window frame, through the stillness of the porch, almost through her own claws. She stepped backwards slowly. The cabin responded. A new pressure bloomed near the door, a subtle leaning, as though something inside pressed an ear, or something like an ear, against the wood to listen. Cat's whiskers trembled. She meowed, soft but deliberate. Her sound vanished into the air before reaching the door, swallowed whole. But inside, something shifted in return. The doorknob twitched, not turned, not rattled, just twitched, as if remembering a movement it once made long ago. Cat froze, staring. The knob twitched again. Then the door expanded inward a fraction, wood flexing like a lung inhaling, but never actually opening. Cat approached cautiously. Her paws touched the threshold. The boards inside the cabin tensed beneath her weight, even though she hadn't stepped through. The house was reacting, not electronically, not physically, but attentively. She pawed the door. It pulsed back. A soft push, too soft to be force, too steady to be accidental. Cat arched in alarm. Her reflection in the window arched as well, but with the wrong timing, first too early, then freezing mid-motion as if unsure how much arching was correct. Cat ran to the porch rail, heartbeat rapid. She turned toward the cabin again. The house seemed to lean forward, not structurally, but in presence, like a living thing confused about how to greet her. The lamps beside the door flickered. Not light, just the shape of light. A ghost of illumination that never ignited, a pale throb that hinted at brightness but produced none. The bulbs remained dark, dead, hollow. The cabin wanted to wake. The lights refused. Cat watched, muscles tight, as a faint glow, colourless, heatless, passed behind the nearest window frame. It wasn't lamplight, it wasn't fire, it wasn't anything she recognised. It was the idea of light moving without shining. The reflection in the window flickered too, its form stretching tall for a moment before collapsing back into the shape of a cat. Cat bolted toward the steps of the porch. The boards flexed, not under her paws, ahead of her, as though predicting her route. She froze. The house exhaled again, long, steady, heavy. The doorknob twitched once more. The dead lamps shivered, eager, confused, and from inside the cabin came a new sensation. A slow, deliberate shift of weight, moving closer to the door, closer to her, without ever making a sound. The lights still didn't wake, but something else had. Cat remained at the top of the porch steps, her body low, muscles gathered beneath her fur like coiled springs. The weight shifting inside the cabin continued, slow, steady, patient. It didn't sound like footsteps. It didn't sound like anything. It was presence without noise, movement without motion. The air pressed subtly outward from the walls, as if the house itself were expanding around something learning how to stretch. Cat flicked her tail. The shadow at the window flicked its tail too. Late, stiff, an echo that didn't understand timing. Cat's breath quickened. She stepped down one stair, claws hooking softly into the worn wood. Inside the cabin, some weight, followed her movement exactly, shifting downward in smooth unity as though the inside floor dipped a fraction in response. The doorframe tightened, its edges bowing inward and then returning to normal, like ribs contracting in a breath. Cat leapt lightly to the porch floor. The reflected cat in the window leapt too, but not to the same height or in the right direction. It jumped too far, colliding with the edge of the reflection world like a puppet pulled by wrong strings. Then it froze, distorted mid-pose, limbs stuck at odd angles until the image snapped back into a more familiar silhouette. Cat hissed, fear sharpening into something colder. The house reacted instantly, not violently, but attentively. The doorknob twisted a fraction, too fast this time, then stilled. The dead lamps gave a faint, colourless flicker, like an organism twitching in its sleep. The window frames trembled, but only in the reflection. No vibration touched the real wood. Cat crept sideways along the porch, body tense, eyes locked on the window. The reflection followed. Too precisely at first, mirroring her steps flawlessly, then abruptly breaking sequence. When Cat paused, the reflection kept pacing. When she turned her head, the reflection did not. When she flattened her ears, the reflection's ears rose instead, almost questioning. It wasn't copying anymore. It was trying to choose. Cat tucked herself close to a support beam, blending with shadow. Inside the cabin, something moved with soft, unsteady weight. The sound came not from the floorboards, but from inside the walls. A crawling pressure that swept along the frame of the house, passing behind windows, slipping between beams, settling behind the door. The cabin was gathering itself around the presence within. Cat watched as the shadows cast by the porch railings stretched toward her, slowly, carefully, as though testing how shadows were meant to move. They dragged across the ground without any light source shifting, stretching, squeezing, adjusting themselves to her shape. Cat's fur lifted along her spine. She stepped backward into a patch of dimness. The shadows hesitated, then reformed, bending inward, arranging themselves around her shape like a crude outline. The house was trying to draw her. Cat backed up again. The shadow outline followed, sliding across the boards with a soft dragging sensation that made her paws itch. She whipped her head toward the door, and the door pulsed, not opened, not moved, pulsed as though something behind it pressed gently with a large, broad, uncertain surface. Cat bolted across the porch to the opposite window. The reflection leapt as well, this time without delay, without distortion. But as soon as it completed the leap, it overshot the motion, its image stretching and blurring against the glass before snapping back into place. Cat raised a paw sharply, striking the window frame. A dull thump. No resonance, no echo. But inside the house, something answered. A low vibration rolled through the air, not sound, but pressure, a thrum that travelled through the porch boards and into Cat's bones. She arched instinctively, claws digging deep. The reflection arched too, but far too high, neck bending into an impossible curve. Cat scrambled backward, and the house followed. Not physically. The walls didn't move, the porch didn't shift. But the attention followed her, like a single vast eye sliding beneath the structure, tracking her steps. Cat paced along the porch railing, tail twitching. The dead lamps flickered again, this time together. Their metal frames strained subtly, as if trying to vibrate, to hum, to wake, but failing every time. The house wanted light, but it didn't know how light worked. Suddenly the window closest to Cat darkened, not the room behind it, the glass itself. Her reflection dissolved into blackness, then reappeared as a slightly altered version of her pose, head tilted at an unfamiliar angle, mouth slightly open, pupils too narrow. Cat froze. The reflection raised its paw even though Cat had not. Then the cabin exhaled. A long, slow pressure wave that rattled nothing but pressed against everything, and the real porch boards beneath Cat's paws bowed inward, just slightly, just enough to say the house was ready for her to come in, even if the lights refused to wake. The porch bowed beneath Kat's paws in a slow, deliberate dip, too even to be settling wood, too rhythmic to be wind. It felt like breath, a breath drawn not by lungs, but by a structure remembering an action it had once observed and never quite understood. Kat froze. Inside the cabin, something shifted again. Not footsteps. She would have known that. Not the rustle of cloth or scrape of furniture. This was a movement without any accompanying sound, a sliding of weight inside the walls, as if timbers themselves shifted to make room for something passing between them. Kat's eyes snapped to the window nearest her. Her reflection was gone again. Not dim, not misaligned, simply absent, a flat pane of blackness. The black glass trembled. A faint white shimmer grew behind it. No light, not really, more like the memory of light, a suggestion of brightness without heat or colour. It pulsed once, twice, in uneven patterns, like a mismatched heartbeat. The cabin was trying to make light, and failing. The shimmer brightened, stretching into thin lines that traced the shape of the window frame, then collapsed inward like a dying spark. The lamp beside the door gave a sudden, violent twitch, but it remained dark. Kat stepped backward on the railing, tail thrashing in uncertainty. Below her, the porch shadow rippled outward, following her movements even though no light had changed direction. The shadow bent wrong, as if attached to the house instead of her body. The cabin exhaled again, deeper this time, and inside, something answered. A dull thump of pressure, not against the door or window, but against the air, like a misplaced heartbeat struggling to find rhythm. The walls shuddered in a way that made Kat's whiskers tremble. She crouched low, prepared to flee, and the window lit up. Not brightly, not warmly, but with a hollow, cold illumination that filled the pane from within, like a lantern burning behind thick fog. Shapes shifted inside the glow, the suggestion of furniture slowly assembling itself in pale outline. A chair, a table. Then both dissolved, replaced by the faint silhouette of the room's interior, and then her reflection returned. Slowly, as if crawling out of darkness, it pressed against the inside of the glass. Not mirrored, pressed. Its paws flattened first, spreading unnaturally wide. Then the head emerged, face stretched, eyes pale as dust motes, mouth slightly open in a silent attempt at breathing. Kat scrambled backward, fur rising high. The reflection's face followed, sliding along the glass like something trapped under ice. Its ears rotated at the wrong angle. Its movements were too slow, too deliberate, like a creature sculpted from memory rather than motion. Behind it, the pale light flickered, dimmed, surged again. The house was getting excited. The lamp beside the door twitched harder, metal frame bending inward as if muscles were contracting beneath it. No beam of light appeared, only a throbbing glow that rolled through the bulb like a heartbeat. Kat darted to the far edge of the porch. The boards rose under her paws, gently, carefully, lifting her, carrying her, matching her movement like a creature offering support. She hissed and leapt free of the lift. The boards flattened instantly, as if startled by her refusal. At the window, her reflection tilted its head until its cheek lay flat against the glass. The pale illumination behind it pulsed, and the reflection's jaw moved again, slowly opening. And this time, the glass shifted. Not cracked, not bent. Shifted inward, like fabric being pressed by a hand. The reflection pushed harder. The pane dimpled. The porch trembled. The lamps tried again to wake, their hollow glow flashing violently in their cold bulbs, yearning to produce real light, but failing at the last instant. Inside the cabin, the walls moved. Kat felt it, the pressure sliding across support beams, gathering behind the window, behind the door, behind every seam in the wood. The cabin was trying to draw itself together, one slow breath at a time, trying to wake, trying to understand light, trying to create movement, through her. The window dimpled further, warping inward like a soft membrane. The reflection's paws pressed deeper into the distortion, and its silhouette thickened, as if gaining weight. Cat backed to the corner of the porch. Every shadow bent toward her. Every board seemed to lean ever so slightly in her direction. The house wanted her close. The reflection's head pushed forward. The glass bulged, trembled, thinned, as if it were about to tear. A final pulse trembled through the porch. A heartbeat. From the house. And on that pulse, the reflection-swelling silhouette pressed forward, ready to enter the world that the house wanted to wake through her.